I want to show you live streaming to YouTube, a complete setup. I want you to see what we used. And the reason I want to do this is that when we started doing it at our church, we really didn't have a complete setup to look at. So here it is. You're looking towards our streaming booth and you're seeing camera 1 and camera 2. On they're on top of what we have as a pan and tilt device for each camera. A little more about that in a moment. You also see a monitor. That monitor is nothing more than just we use a countdown clock on it for, say, the worship team. When they're ready to start, they see the clock go from, say, 10 minutes down to 0, and the streaming begins. Where do they get that information? They get it from the secondary computer that's connected to that monitor. But the primary computer is the one I'm going to focus on now. This is the hub of where everything begins and ends, for that matter. Let's look at the camera, the camcorder. On the side of the camcorder, you'll have to power it. And we power it to AC. They have batteries, but it's much better and much more reliable to plug it in. We have a wired connection to what we call our zoom. We zoom to a remote through a 2.5 millimeter wire. We have an HDM out. Where does this go? This goes to the computer. It takes with the camera image. We have the pan and tilt AC, where we plug it in again to just the 120 outlet, and we have then the wire that goes to, or the remote control for the pan and tilt. So all those things plug in and head towards the desk where the operator sits. Looking at the front of the camera, you can see the viewfinder, and I wanted to tell you what camera we used. We're using the Canon HFG50. We wanted to have a quality that's good enough, but we didn't want to spend too much. At the time that we put this together, these cameras were about $1,000. The pan and tilt situation is by this company called Beskor. It's called a Beskor MP-1E. So this apparatus here is the pan and tilt. And we saw before this wire, this is what goes out to the remote. And then this all sits on a little ball here. It's a U2E bit mini ball head. And it's just a ball that's standard for cameras that fit all the way on up. And this allows us to sort of adjust the camera and put it in a permanent place, and then we can go from there. The hub we chose to use a Lenovo laptop, a 10th generation, and the key for us at the time of purchase was to get the best processor we could get. That's an i7, and plenty of RAM to handle the software, which is fairly complex. So all the wiring eventually comes into here, at least the HDMI and some other wires. And then you might notice we also had some headphones, and that's because we need to, as we're recording and streaming outward, we need to listen to the audio to if the sound is good or not. So what we have here is the HDMI coming out of the cameras and taking that signal through this thing called an Elgato Camlink 4K video capture device. Each camera has one hooked into the HDMI cord that takes the signal. And what that does is it prepares the signal to enter to the computer. How does it enter? Well, it takes the signal and comes out the other end through the cord to the computer where it's connected via a USB 3 connection in the USB 3 ports. You have to have the Camlink video capture device or equivalent. You cannot hook up the HDMI cords from the camera directly to your computer. A moment on the pan and tilt, very important to get that. They're not cheap. This is probably $160, and I should have probably said the Elgato cam links. Those were not cheap either, maybe 140 a piece. But the pan and tilt is a good thing to have because you want to be able to move the camera around. In this case, what it'll do is if you push the arrow, this arrow, uh, on it, the camera will tilt down. And if you push this one, the camera will tilt up. And just like I show you here in the legend, if you push to the left, the camera will slide to the left, and to the right, the camera will slide to the right. And you have different speeds to control the camera at. We like it on the slowest speed possible. The other thing you need to do is be able to zoom the camera in and out. We chose a wire lance remote control, and that hooks right into the camera through that 2.5 millimeter connection. And if you push on the T, here's the legend again, if you push on the T, it'll zoom it in. T stands for tight. And if you push on the W, it'll go more wide angle. W stands for wide. And that's all you really need to know about the control. So you're using the pan and tilt to get it in the right area, but then zooming in or out depending on how close you want to go to your subject. And then there is another bit of input. Over here in this little window over here, I'm showing that on the computer there's a Type-C connection. In this Type-C connection, I took it out to here, now it's blown up, to this USB hub. In the USB hub, there's many things that are going on. The most important thing, well, there's two important things really, is this USB audio adapter. The brand is called Pluggable. Now you can't really see it because we felt like we wanted to put tape around it to really get it snug on the USB hub. But all it is a USB connection. And at the end of the connection, there's a little port here for a 3.5 millimeter cable. Where does this cable come from? It comes from the audio mixer. We have an audio sound booth that takes care of the audio, and all we're doing is accepting the audio that otherwise might go out to the audience, live audience, but we're accepting the audio, and it's coming through here to the USB audio adapter and eventually into the computer. We also use this to give us a connection, an Ethernet connection to the router streaming to YouTube. So this is a real cool little USB hub. It's got a USB ports, but it also has an Ethernet port that you can hook this in right into your router. And we choose to do an Ethernet connection instead of a Wi-Fi connection because we feel like it's more stable, especially in terms of continuous speed, and you need a lot of speed. We have at least 200 megabytes of speed at through the router into the internet. And then there's the hub. This is a screenshot of the computer, the laptop computer that we chose to use, and we've purchased vMix encoding software. Highly recommend it. I've tried some other free software. Doesn't work very well. This is worth $350 to pay for this version. And what the encoding software does is it mixes all the inputs together and sends it down the line through that Ethernet connection that I just showed you. And the software allows you to mix many things. What we see here are two windows. Over on the right here is a live window. This is what would be currently playing live to YouTube through that Ethernet connection from this software. What we see on the left is what we might call the ready window. When I'm ready, I can click it on over through a control over here. You can just take your choice. There's different ways to click it over. And it'll go live. So for example, when we start our church service, we'll usually have this on. This is a slide that says, here we are, we're ready to go. In fact, it's called a multi-view slide where it has music playing and so forth. And when we're ready to go live, when a person is up there ready to say, hello, welcome to church service, we just click it on over and it moves over. Down below are the other things that you can put in the ready window to go live. You can put images. You can put cameras. We have two cameras, so we'll trade off between the one and the other. You can put what are called overlays, and what those are things that can be put on top of what you're viewing. So for example, if you're viewing you have a camera view of somebody talking, you can click on perhaps the name of that person who's talking, or perhaps what they're talking about. And we have a number of overlays here. Now, I'm not here to show you how to use vMix. That would be another lesson. But I'm just trying to show you and give you an appreciation for what this encoding software does. It pulls it all in. And finally, it also pulls in the audio. The audio we noted earlier comes on through from the audio mixer through the hub to the computer, and then we can control the audio over and above what is controlled by the audio mixer folks that take care of the audio for the whole worship service that we do. Anyhow, there's a lot of stuff going on, and I just wanted to give you an appreciation for that. But mostly just the hardware and the things that you need to get going. Okay, let's go through it one more time with a diagram. The center of it all is the computer, where we have the vMix encoding software pulling all inputs into the computer, mixing them together, then sending them out. How does this work? A camcorder is sent in through an HDMI cord, through a video capture device, through one end HDMI, the other end the USB 3. And we do that with another camcorder as well, HDMI, video capture, and then on to the USB 3 port. Those camcorders are controlled via remote pan and tilt and a remote zoom, both camcorders. That takes care of the video. The audio comes from the audio mixer on a 3.5 millimeter cord through the audio adapter, through the hub, through the USB-C into the computer. There's actually one more thing that we use occasionally as a video input, and that's a tablet or an iPad computer. that we send a signal in via NDI, which is a wireless signal, through the router into the computer. Now, as I said, all of this gets put together with the vMix encoding software. And where does it go? It goes out through the hub, through an Ethernet connection, to the router, presumably a modem, and then on to YouTube. And there you have a stream. I hope this has been helpful. I think if I would have had something like this when we first started, we would have got done a lot faster. Thanks for watching.